the 228 incident is obviously a massive event in Taiwanese history and in the formation of a Taiwanese identity. Among the victims that day were Chinese who had come over, mainlanders, as they're often referred to. Could you tell us a little bit about the violence and the impact that had on the mainlander community?
The violence was generally directed against people who were thought to be associated with the Kuomintang government that had arrived in 1945. Essentially, folks that arrived after the Japanese had left had really taken advantage of Taiwan's economic situation to rule in a kind of corrupt, inept manner. And that combined with post war inflation led to a lot of resentment from the native Taiwanese population. And so in that immediate kind of post February 28th violence against the government, there was a lot of chaos. And according to recent historical scholarship, it seems about 1,000 of these mainlanders, Waishanen, were killed in the weeks after February 28th.
Do you think the fact that historical memory has really focused on the government crackdown and forgotten about the events maybe in the weeks preceding it, do you think that has kind of helped to fuel a kind of almost divide among the different ethnicities in Taiwan in terms of how they remember 228?
Historical memory is definitely one of the most important parts of 228 today, because the February 20th incident, is over 70 years ago, and the implications for it have to do with Taiwan's democratization, the issue of transitional justice, and kind of righting the wrongs that occurred under the 70 years of Kuomintang rule. So in some ways, it symbolizes kind of the entire rule of the Kuomintang on Taiwan. In some ways, it has grown to become maybe even more, as you were saying, maybe even more than what the initial February 20th incident was about, which is actually kind of complicated, and it involved a lot of kind of movements and counter movements.
So, do you think that kind of these different historical interpretations based on ethnicity and identity may gradually all come together to form a consensus, or is it something that is possible to be passed down from generation to generation?
These expressions of identity, especially ones who hold it to a stronger degree, tend to be in older generations today. People who grew up under the historical authoritarian period and whose childhood exposure would have been more focused on a lot of the ethnic grievances. I think that these identities are being slowly replaced by what we're seeing in contemporary Taiwan, which is more of a civic, pluralistic kind of national identity as opposed to an ethnic national identity.